Welcome to Series 2, Episode 11 of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. I'm Jeremy Gladwell, Lizzie's dad, and I'm telling the heartbreaking true story of how our daughter, a vulnerable young person, was taken, isolated, and subjected to coercive control, and how she was cast adrift by the agencies tasked with safeguarding. Content warning. This episode contains references to suicidal thoughts and mental distress. The heavily redacted report from Humberside Police became a kind of lens, a filter that suddenly brought into focus things that had once seemed unfathomable. Phrases in old letters, cryptic comments that had never made sense, suddenly they did. The truth had been sitting there all along, obscured but present. Back in early 2024, Jane, Lizzie's mum, wrote a long, anguished letter to Focus Adult Social Work. It wasn't just a letter. It was a cry from a traumatised mother desperate to be heard. Jane was trying to help them understand FASD, the condition that made our Lizzie so vulnerable, and the subtle ways it shaped her thinking and emotions. Even then, less than 6 months after Lizzie had been taken in a coordinated predatory removal, both Jane and I sensed that something was being hidden. Some kind of allegation had been made. Everyone seemed to know, but no one would tell us. One of Jane's understandable concerns was about her job. She needed a clean DBS certificate, so she asked the obvious question. Had any allegation been made against her? A simple question, a necessary one. The response from the team leader at Focus was interesting, carefully worded. The reply said, quote, "In your letter, you also express concern about your work and your need to maintain a clean DBS check. Currently, there have been no allegations made against you, and you are not being investigated by our safeguarding team as the source of risk in this case, and thus your DBS status should not be affected." End quote. That letter from the team leader of Focus was addressed directly to Jane. Quote, "There have been no allegations made against you, and you are not being investigated by our safeguarding team as the source of risk in this case." End quote. At the time, we took it at face value. We thought it meant there were no allegations against us at all. But that's not what it says, is it? Quote, "There have been no allegations made against you, and you are not being investigated by our safeguarding team as the source of risk in this case." End quote. It says that Jane wasn't under investigation. It says that Jane wasn't seen as the source of risk. But someone was. A year later, when the Humberside Police report landed, that phrase, the source of risk, took on new significance. The truth had been sitting there, concealed in plain sight. So who was the source of risk in this case? Process of elimination here. Jane? No, the letter makes that clear. Coral or Lewis? Hardly. Focus had given them their blessing from day one. No questions asked, no hesitation. Focus had never expressed the slightest concern about Coral's role in Lizzie's sudden removal and isolation, even though every sign of predatory and controlling behaviour was there. So not Jane, not Coral, not Lewis, not Lizzie, the individual at the centre of this crisis. And that leaves one person. Me. To Jane, the team leader wrote, quote, "There have been no allegations made against you, and you are not being investigated by our safeguarding team as the source of risk in this case." The source of risk? Me? Being investigated by the safeguarding team at Focus? What, by Gary Atkinson, who I had asked to meet with on multiple occasions, and he had consistently, categorically, and comprehensively refused to meet with me at all. Not once did we meet, ever. I have still never met him. Gary had dismissed me, belittled me. He was rude and astoundingly insensitive towards me. He ignored serious safeguarding referrals from Lizzie's grandparent, from a godparent, and from a senior safeguarding professional in the Methodist Church. He did not have any dialogue with any of Lizzie's family or church whatsoever. He ignored all offers I made in that regard. He rejected this wealth of experience, awareness, and insight from Lizzie's support network. Such blinkered, belligerent behaviour could surely not be considered to be an investigation. And yet there it was again in black and white, the word investigation written as if it were fact, as if I was some lurking danger, as if I were the source of risk. But it was a lie, a mirage, a misdirection. How could any of this be right? It was absurd, agencies colluding with each other, and with a perpetrator making vile and completely untested allegations against me, Lizzie's dad. Again I ask you, if I am regarded by adult social care as such a menace as to apparently be under investigation by both adult social care and Humberside Police, should I not know about it? And more importantly, should Jane not know about it? Why would they not ask Jane any questions, if only to check that she was safe? Wouldn't that be entirely appropriate, basic adult safeguarding? Instead, they stayed silent. They let the lie breathe and spread. It's beyond negligence. It is deplorable cruelty. I want to make something very clear, an unambiguous statement. To Focus Adult Social Work, to Humberside Police, I welcome a full, thorough investigation of the allegations you have quietly lodged against me, the allegations you have got hidden in your systems, the allegations that became the excuse for condoning the predatory removal, isolation, and manipulation of our daughter. I am ready and willing, happy to answer every question, under oath if necessary. You may speak to anyone who knows me, friends, family, colleagues, previous employers, neighbours, clients, anyone. I encourage it. Because the accusations recorded against me are horrendous, despicable, offensive beyond comprehension, yet you accepted them without question, without proof. You let them justify what was done to Lizzie. So investigate me. Because either I am the monster you have chosen to believe I am, based solely on the lies of Coral Wilson Clark, or I am innocent, I am Lizzie's father, and our daughter has been stolen from us, exploited and controlled with your knowledge and approval. Investigate me, because I have the right, I have the duty to prove my innocence. You cannot cast me as guilty and then refuse the chance for scrutiny. That is injustice made tangible. And yet the world you've built around this case is one where lies are treated as truth, where darkness is sanctioned by those who should be protecting the light. I have spent countless hours, every scrap of energy, documenting everything, phone calls, letters, emails, collating evidence, engaging Women's Aid, MPs, FASD charities, local councils, safeguarding boards, fighting for truth, fighting for Lizzie. And why? Why all this effort? Because I am innocent, because I love my daughter, because every fibre of my being screams against the injustice she has suffered. Please, investigate me. After all, why wouldn't you? Mental health is something we take for granted, until it shatters. Jane was and still is attending weekly counselling sessions because of the ongoing trauma and sudden disappearance of Lizzie. And me? I was pushing on with as much resolve and determination as I could. I was doing what I had to do for Lizzie, for Jane, for every parent of a young person with special needs in northeast Lincolnshire. I thought I was coping, but all the while it was slowly crushing me the way I was being treated, the effort that had been needed to extract each vital scrap of information. And so it was that I found myself capturing my turmoil in my journal. Quote, "There is no moving on, no closure, because we know the truth. Lizzie is being exploited as Coral's puppet in her twisted game, and everyone is just believing it because they don't want to question it. I would request that Focus use whatever powers of persuasion they may have to try to convene a meeting between Lizzie, Jane and me. And that would then be perhaps our only opportunity to hug our daughter for the final time and say our tearful and heartfelt goodbyes. Such a meeting would be the closest we could get to closure. Then we can grieve. But I know that I will then be crushed by the sheer unfathomability of it all. I will be broken and destroyed. It will be a world in which I cannot continue to exist, where such cruelty and callousness is sanctioned by the agencies of state, for it would be taxpayer-funded support of abuse and exploitation. I cannot reconcile myself to living in such a world where grief and devastation are imposed on innocent people, where authorities and institutions do all they can to push the heads of loving parents under the water, punishing them for their care and adding to their torture. Every new day would be a reminder of the sorrow and desperation. Trauma would be reawakened each morning. For me to hang on in there, for me to stay safely away from the edge, I need to see signs of hope, glimpses of progress. If there is no resolution, then I will have failed my child in the most fundamental way, for I would have allowed her to be taken and exploited. I have tried to rescue her. God knows I have tried to rescue her. But if there is no resolution, then I will have failed Lizzie, and I will be unable to forgive myself. Lies will have defeated truth. Darkness will have overcome light. Who wants to live in a world where such evil prevails? I don't want to carry on living in a world where the structures and institutions give the green light to predators to pluck vulnerable young people from their home through malice and greed, causing such devastation and grief. I don't want to carry on living. Andy's Man Club takes its name from Andrew Roberts, a man who sadly took his own life, aged 23, in early 2016. Andy's family had no inkling that he was suffering or struggling to the extent that he would do this, and as a result, they looked deeper into male suicide and men's mental health. They soon discovered that male suicide is the biggest killer of men under 54, with male mental health surrounded by well-ingrained cultural stigmas in the UK. Andy's mum and brother-in-law came up with the idea of Andy's Man Club, a group where men aged 18 and above could speak openly about their mental health in a judgment-free environment. So in mid-2016, 9 men met in a small room in Halifax, West Yorkshire, with the simple aim of talking through their issues and helping each other deal with their mental health. All those in attendance agreed there was a magic in that room that had to be shared. This was the start of a movement that has grown faster than anyone first involved could have imagined. Groups now operate nationwide, including one near me. I started attending a local Andy's Man Club in May 2025, after realising that I was teetering on my own precipice into the darkness, what I grimly called Plan Z. Months later, I am still a regular attendee. It has kept me from falling. Not far from the abyss, no, but far enough to catch glimpses of the world beyond the darkness. To see the beauty of love, friendship and hope. Hope. Even in the shadow of this crisis, hope has been my lifeline. Hope that Lizzie will be freed from the malicious grip of those who took her. Hope that the agencies who failed us will face their mistakes, change their systems, and make sure no other family suffers like ours. The dark cloud still hovers. I have lost interest in life. But hope, fragile, stubborn hope, keeps it at bay. And then I received a letter from the Chief Executive of Focus inviting me to a meeting. Imagine my surprise. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. Please subscribe for updates at lizziegladwell.org.uk. Share this podcast and add your voice to ours. The fight is far from over. The dark clouds of trauma, exploitation, and systemic failure still loom large, but hope persists. To those listening, do not turn away. Speak up. Demand accountability. Hold institutions to the standards they claim to uphold. Because if we do not, innocent lives will continue to be ruined in silence. Thank you again, and join me for the next episode.